It began with a moment that no one in the room could explain. A man who had not moved his legs in 20 years suddenly felt a faint sensation in his feet while tears rolled down his face. The feared Mafia boss who had built an empire through intimidation had accepted that he would die trapped in a wheelchair. The world's finest specialists had failed him. Experimental treatments had emptied fortunes. Hope had disappeared long ago. Yet the impossible happened not because of another famous doctor or miracle drug, but because of a struggling single mother whose greatest wealth was her compassion. What she did over the following months would not only challenge everything medicine believed possible but would also transform one of the most feared men in the city into someone no one recognized anymore. Before this unforgettable journey begins, if you believe that kindness can change lives, forgiveness can heal broken hearts, hope should never be abandoned, and everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to our channel so our community can continue sharing stories that inspire hearts around the world. The city of Ashford glittered with wealth on the surface, but beneath its polished skyline existed another world ruled by fear. At the center of that hidden empire sat Alistair Vaughan, a man whose name alone could silence a room. 20 years earlier, a violent ambush had left him permanently paralyzed from the waist down. His enemies had disappeared, his organization had become even stronger, and his fortune had multiplied beyond imagination, but none of it could buy back the life he had lost. Every morning he stared through the enormous windows of his mansion as healthy people walked, laughed, and hurried toward ordinary lives they barely appreciated. Every afternoon ended exactly the same, with another specialist shaking a disappointed head and another report confirming there was nothing more medicine could offer. Despite his immense wealth, Alistair lived inside a prison far smaller than his mansion. The paralysis had hardened more than his body. It had frozen his heart. Employees feared him. Associates obeyed him. Nobody truly cared for him. Every act of kindness around him felt purchased, every smile rehearsed. Even his closest advisors stayed because of power rather than loyalty. Deep inside, he believed he deserved nothing different. Across the city, life looked completely different for Maren Ellis. She was a single mother raising her 8-year-old daughter, Clara, after her husband had died from a workplace accident years before. Every morning before sunrise painted the sky with soft daylight, Maren prepared breakfast, packed Clara's school bag, and hurried to her job as a home caregiver. She earned little, but every elderly patient she cared for remembered her gentle hands, patient voice, and ability to make lonely afternoons feel meaningful again. She had learned that healing was not always about medicine. Sometimes healing began when someone finally felt seen. Bills piled higher each month. The landlord threatened eviction. Clara's asthma medication cost more than Maren could comfortably afford. Still, she never allowed bitterness to replace kindness. Clara often watched her mother give away sandwiches to homeless strangers despite having little for themselves. Maren always said that compassion was the only treasure that grew larger every time it was shared. One bright afternoon, the private agency where Maren worked received an unusual request. An anonymous client needed a full-time caregiver. The salary was nearly 4 times higher than anything Maren had ever earned. Most caregivers refused after learning the client's reputation. They whispered stories of violence, impossible expectations, and instant dismissals. Maren hesitated only because Clara's future depended on stable income. She accepted. The massive estate felt less like a home and more like a fortress. Security guards watched every visitor. Expensive artwork decorated silent hallways where laughter had not echoed for years. When Maren finally entered Alistair's private study, she expected a monster. Instead she found a tired man whose eyes carried more loneliness than anger. Medical files covered entire shelves. Awards from rehabilitation centers gathered dust. Wheelchairs of every imaginable design stood lined against one wall like monuments to failed hope. Alistair barely acknowledged her arrival. He believed she would quit within days like everyone before her. Marin never treated him as a feared criminal. She treated him as another human being who deserved dignity. She followed medical instructions carefully, prepared healthy meals, encouraged physical therapy exactly as prescribed, and spoke to him with quiet respect rather than fear or admiration. She never asked about his past. She cared only about the person sitting before her. Days became weeks. Alistair noticed something unusual. Marin never looked at his fortune. She noticed when his shoulders hurt after sitting too long. She adjusted his blanket before he asked. She placed fresh flowers near his window because she believed beauty belonged in every room. Small gestures slowly reached places that expensive medicine never had. Clara occasionally accompanied her mother after school when childcare arrangements failed. The cheerful little girl filled silent rooms with innocent curiosity. She showed Alistair drawings from school, proudly explained science projects, and laughed without caring who he used to be. She never saw a mafia boss. She saw a lonely man in a wheelchair. One afternoon Clara accidentally dropped a small rubber ball. It rolled beneath Alistair's chair. She apologized, embarrassed, but he surprised himself by smiling. It was the first genuine smile anyone in the mansion remembered seeing in years. The emotional walls surrounding him began to crack. During daily therapy sessions, Marin insisted on consistency instead of miracles. She encouraged circulation exercises, massage techniques approved by physicians, healthier nutrition, better sleep routines, and emotional engagement. Specialists had always focused on muscles. Marin focused on the whole person. Months passed. Then came the impossible moment. As sunlight streamed through the therapy room windows, Marin gently massaged Alistair's legs while guiding another routine exercise. Suddenly he frowned. He felt something. At first it was barely noticeable, like warmth spreading beneath cold skin. Everyone assumed it was imagination. Doctors repeated examinations. Advanced scans revealed slight neurological activity that had never appeared before. They could not explain it with certainty, but they agreed his physical condition had unexpectedly improved. Hope returned. Alistair committed himself to therapy with determination he had not shown in 20 years. He endured exhausting rehabilitation sessions. Sweat replaced despair. Every tiny movement became a victory. Every inch gained represented another step toward freedom. News of his progress remained private, but something even more remarkable happened. The cruel businessman slowly disappeared. He began asking employees about their families. He increased wages for household staff. Medical insurance expanded for every worker. Children of his employees received educational scholarships. People who had served him for years suddenly realized they were working for someone entirely different. His criminal associates grew uncomfortable. Compassion threatened profits. Several trusted lieutenants urged Alistair to return to old methods, warning that kindness looked like weakness. For the first time in decades, he ignored them. He had spent 20 years imprisoned inside resentment. He refused to waste whatever future remained. Meanwhile, Marin faced her own crisis. Clara's asthma worsened. Hospital visits became frequent. Even with Alistair's generous salary, medical expenses mounted quickly. Marin tried hiding her worries, but exhaustion showed across her face. One afternoon Alistair quietly reviewed unpaid medical invoices he had accidentally noticed inside her bag. Without announcing his intentions, he arranged complete treatment through the city's leading pediatric specialists. Every bill disappeared anonymously. Marin eventually discovered what he had done. Instead of thanking him with overwhelming emotion, she simply smiled through tears because she understood something important. The greatest gift was not the money. It was that a man once feared by everyone had learned to care for another family without expecting anything in return. Rehabilitation continued. One bright spring afternoon, supported by parallel bars and surrounded by therapists, Alistair managed to stand. only for several trembling seconds. But 20 years earlier doctors had declared even that impossible. His first shaky step came weeks later. The room erupted in applause. Some cried openly. Alistair closed his eyes, remembering every hopeless morning he had spent believing life was over. The miracle had not arrived overnight. It had arrived through patience, discipline, compassion, and someone who refused to give up on another human being. Standing again changed his body. Choosing goodness changed his soul. He quietly dismantled the criminal operations that had built his fortune. Legal authorities were astonished by his unexpected cooperation. Businesses previously used for illegal activities transformed into legitimate companies employing hundreds of people. Community centers replaced abandoned warehouses. Scholarships carried the names of workers who had lost their lives to violence years earlier. Rehabilitation clinics opened for people unable to afford treatment. He wanted others to receive opportunities he himself had almost abandoned. Many questioned whether redemption could erase decades of wrongdoing. Alistair never claimed it could. He accepted responsibility for his past while dedicating every remaining day to building a better future. Maren continued living modestly despite opportunities for luxury. She purchased a small home where Clara finally had her own bedroom and a sunny backyard filled with flowers. She refused expensive gifts beyond what her family genuinely needed because she wanted Clara to understand that happiness came from character rather than possessions. Years later, the rehabilitation center that once rejected Alistair as an impossible case invited him to speak before patients facing life-changing injuries. He entered the auditorium using only a simple walking cane. Every step reminded listeners that healing sometimes begins long before the body changes. It begins the moment someone chooses hope over surrender. He never described himself as a miracle. Instead, he pointed toward Maren sitting quietly beside Clara in the front row. He believed she had simply reminded him that every person, no matter how broken, still carried the ability to become someone better. The audience stood together in emotional silence before applauding for several uninterrupted minutes. Some celebrated the medical achievement. Others celebrated the greater miracle. A lonely, bitter man had rediscovered humanity because one struggling single mother refused to treat him as anything less than a human being worthy of compassion. Before this story comes to its conclusion, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a meaningful comment sharing whether you believe kindness has the power to change even the hardest heart, or tell us about a moment when someone gave you hope during your most difficult season. As the afternoon sun bathed the rehabilitation garden in warm golden light, Alistair slowly walked beside Maren and Clara through blooming flowers. Children laughed nearby without fear. Former employees greeted him with genuine smiles instead of nervous respect. The life he had once tried to control through power had finally become meaningful through service. Maren watched Clara race across the grass with healthy lungs and joyful laughter, realizing that the greatest miracles rarely arrive all at once. They are built through countless ordinary acts of love, patience, sacrifice, and faith. 20 years of paralysis had convinced one man that nothing could save him, yet the cure he truly needed was never found inside a laboratory. It was found inside the compassionate heart of a single mother who believed every life deserved another chance. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. May this story remind us that no matter how impossible life may seem, hope can appear through the most unexpected person, and one act of genuine kindness can change a life forever.